Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Rishi, and in this video, we are taking a look at Form 4 Chapter 1 Quadratic Functions and Equations in One Variable. I've broken down this chapter into 4 different videos, each building upon one another in order. And I would highly advise you to watch these videos in order so that you make the most out of it. But feel free to skip around if you know that you already mastered one of the parts. Feel free to go skip over or go to the videos that you prefer. But still, for first timers or for beginners, go watch the video in the flow and you will understand it much better. So, without any further ado, let's begin. So in this first part, we are going to take a look at what quadratic function really means. So before going to the first part, let's have an intro. So quadratic originates from a Latin word which says quadrar. Pardon my Latin pronunciation, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but quadrar. So what this means is, it means make a square. So I'm no linguistic expert, so from square what we can learn is there is something to do with square. So quadratic function, how it works is, for example, let's take a square. Alright, we have a square, and then assume that you do not know the exact value of its sides, so you just say x plus 2 and x plus 3, just like that. And to find the area of this square, what you will do is you will multiply them together. This is something that you already know in Form 3 and Form 2. You learned this under algebraic expression and how to expand, how to factorize and everything. So what we do here is we expand them. So the resulting answer will be x squared plus 5x plus 6. This particular expression that we have here, right here is actually a quadratic equation. This form is known as quadratic. So this is how quadratic started and where the concept is derived from. This is something that you do not need to know to answer your exam, but just an intro so that you know what we are working with. Alright, so let's go to number 1. Identifying a quadratic function. So as I showed you earlier, that is a quadratic equation. For an equation or an expression to be qualified as quadratic, there are 3 main rules that they have to fulfill. There is actually a 4th one, which is often not stated in the textbook, but it's also one of the rules. So let's begin. So let's start. The first one is that the a value, which is right in front of x squared. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what does A, B, and C stand for, they all stand for different constants or different numbers. Like, you know, when you have an expression, for example, x squared plus 2x squared plus 5x plus c plus 2, these numbers, these digits, are known as constants. Because x is a variable which can change, we can have many values for x, but these constants a, b, c will not change throughout that equation. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get back to the first one. First one is that a cannot be 0. Because if a is 0, 0x squared means 0. So by having a as 0, we essentially cancel out x squared. That's false. But at the same time, b and c can be zeros. If you have 0 here, it's possible it can be 0 here as well. It is alright to have b and c to be 0, but a can never be 0. Alright, now the second thing is the power. The highest power that you can have for a quadratic function or an expression is 2. You cannot have a power more than 2 in a quadratic function. It has to be 2, and subsequently can be lesser, but 2 is essential. 2 must be there as one of the powers. And then the third one we have is it must only have one variable. This one is kind of self-explanatory because the chapter's title is in one variable. So it makes sense that the expression or the function should have one variable. That's it. By one variable we mean x squared means it should have x. It should have x, only x. It is not allowed for you to have x, y, and z in the same equation. If you're going to have x all the way. If you're going to have z all the way. If you're going to have y all the way. Do not interchange. Now, the fourth one is kind of an additional one, but this is also very important, which is the powers should be whole numbers and positive. By that I mean you can't have negative numbers as the power, and also the number has to be a whole number, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have 0, but it will become 1, so we don't actually include 0 in this rule. But you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But remember, since the second rule is the highest power is 2, you technically can only have 1 and 2. That's it. This is how you can identify a quadratic function. These are the 3 rules plus 1 rule to make it easier. Now, I'm going to give you 5 examples or 5 questions to try. So here we go. These are the 5. Take your time and try it out. Please pause the video if you need more time, and I will be giving you the answers right now. So here we go. For the first one, 2x. Is 2x a quadratic expression? The answer is no. It's no because the highest power has to be 2, and there is no 2 here. So the power here is 1, because if there's no power, it means it's 1. So 2 times x to the power of 1 is not a quadratic expression because it doesn't fulfill the second rule. Let's move on to the second one. We have 9x squared. 9x squared is actually a quadratic expression. That's because 9x squared fulfills all the requirements. So the first requirement is that a cannot be 0. So a in this case is 9. Then second rule is that the highest power should be 2. And there we have it, it's 2. As I said, it's okay for you to have other powers less than 2, but as long as 2 is there, it's already qualified as an expression, as a quadratic expression. Then the second rule is done. The third rule is that it can only have one variable, which is x. It just has x. And the fourth one is that the power has to be whole number and positive. We have 2. That's it. Yes. By 2, I'm referring to the number 2. Let's move on to the next one. This one is also a quadratic expression because it fulfills all the 4 rules. A is not 0, the highest power is 2, and then there is only one variable in the whole expression. And also the powers for both the x are positive and whole numbers. if we have 1 over 2 here, or we have negative 2 here, this will automatically be disqualified because it is not what we want. It does not fulfill the rules. Let's go to the fourth one. Fourth one is not a quadratic expression. I will explain to you why. Because, okay, let's see one by one. The first rule is a is not 0, a is 3 here, so it's fine. Second rule is that highest power is 2, it's fine. Then third one is that it only has one variable, we have x and x. But the fourth one, which is whole number and must be positive. Here, if you were to change 1 over x into its index form, you'll have x to the power of negative 1. And negative 1 is a negative number. So we are not allowed to have negative 1 inside a quadratic function as a power. So it is neglected and it's not considered as a quadratic expression. And now we are down to the last one, number 5. We have 5x cubed plus 2x. Is this a quadratic expression? You're correct. It's not. Yes, you are correct. It's not. 5x cubed plus 2x is not a quadratic expression because it does not fulfill the second rule, which is the highest power must be 2. But we have 3 here. 3 is most definitely more than 2. So this expression gets disqualified as a quadratic function, so that we can take it off. And one last thing before I let you go is that what is the difference between function and then equation and also expression? Function is when you have the fx at the front and you have something like a formula inside, like 2x plus 2. This is a function because using this you are able to draw out a graph. There might be other explanations for what a function is, but in the simplest terms and for 4 level, f of x equals to 2x plus 2 is a function because you can plot it out on a graph. Okay, next thing, equation is whenever we have the equal sign, it is called an equation. And for expression is whenever we have a formula, for example 2x plus 2, without the equal sign. This is what we call as an expression. There is a subtle difference that you have to understand because the questions might twist and ask you in different manner just to confuse you. Alright, and with that we have come to the end of the first part of the video. The next 3 parts will be dropping very soon, so stay tuned. And as usual, thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.